Welcome to the Future of Field Service podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Nicastro. Today, we're going to be talking a bit about what it takes to create a customer-centric service sales approach. We talk a lot on this podcast about how service is evolving, what that means often in terms of customer interactions and execution. But the way service has changed and is changing also impacts how we need to be thinking about selling service. So that's the topic of today's podcast. I'm excited to welcome to the podcast today Hany Salah, who is the head of services sales at Schneider Electric for Northeast Africa. Hany, welcome to the Future of Field Service podcast.
First, thank you, Sarah, for having me today. It's my pleasure. About myself, I am Egyptian. I'm born and raised in Egypt. For my professional career, I have around 25 years of experience, most of them in services. About my current organization, I have been working for Schneider Electric for around 17 years. I started my career in the back office, in the services back office. I did a lot of services project management, tendering, operation with multi-stakeholders and in multi-segment. Started from 2016, I decided to go to the front office. Today, I am the head of services sales for Northeast Africa. I am leading the services sales team in this region, serving all segments with all market domain. In addition to that, I have another career in education and learning. I am certified instructor and consultant in the field of project management from Project Management Institute and some other places like Engineering Syndicate here in Egypt as a consultant, conducting and delivering a lot of courses in project management, risk management, and strategic management in AOC and other places here in Egypt.
Mm-hmm. So we didn't really talk about this when we were prepping, but how would you describe the intersection between all of the work that you have done in project management and sort of the, not only the external to Schneider things that you do, but I know you're also recognized on LinkedIn as a top voice in thought leadership around project management. How would you describe the intersection between that world and sales?
I think it's the same section. When I decided to leave the back office and go to the front office, I guessed in that time, by mistake, I will leave the pressure of the back office related to customer calls, 24/7 customer support, engaging in project life cycle challenge, and so on. But I discovered when I went to the front office, I am doing the same thing, but with different format. Mm-hmm. So during any customer meeting, we need to explore in depth, in deep dive, how by the end of the day, I will deliver the product, solution, and services. Mm-hmm. In addition to my career in the project management, so also in front of other participants outside Schneider-Centric, we are exploring the same thing, how we can deliver in front of our customer the project deliverables that despite all the challenging during the project life cycle and so on. Mm-hmm. So I do believe by the end of the day, I work on the same interaction between professional career and learning career or education career, because by the end of the day, we have to support our customer. So I believe the best mix is how to be practitioner in front of your customer. How to have a real professional experience in a real project with multi-segment, multi-domain, international and multinational customer. And at the same time, you have the knowledge how we can deliver the project management knowledge in front of a lot of participants. So by the end of the day, I do believe it's the same. And how to be practitioner is the crucial success factor for any career.
Okay. All right. So we're talking about customer centricity in service sales. Okay. So I think one of the things that sort of sets the stage for this entire conversation is that today's customers don't care about what the offer is. They care about what the benefit to them is, right? How would you say that their focus in sales engagements has shifted? And what does that mean in terms of how we then have to shift our approach to selling service to be successful?
A very important point, Sarah, how we can consider the customer journey, or what I can say, discovering the customer journey. First, we need to challenge ourselves before serving the customer and answering some point. For example, is customer experience as we suppose it is? We need to answer this question first. Then, do customer need what we think they need? We have to answer this point. How much effort they invest in the interaction with us? And are we providing value in each interaction? By answering those questions, we have to determine, do we need to know Mr. Customer more or not.
Mm-hmm.
So we have our end-to-end customer platform. And based on each customer touching point, we need to test the voice of the customer in order to test customer feedback, customer satisfaction, to reach customer experience or customer centricity. So we need to start from customer persona, identify the customer persona, identify the customer needs, expectation, challenges, decision-making process, drivers in order to make a decision before providing any kind of services to the customer. By exploring this approach in depth, we need to educate or teach our services sales team. Don't go and sell everything to Mr. Customer. By the end of the day, as you mentioned, Mr. Customer don't care about what we are providing. Mr. Customer only cares about his benefits. So how we can customize and personalize our services portfolio in front of our customer is a crucial success factor. And this is the trend now in the market in order to transform from personal selling to consultative selling. And of course, we will discuss about what is the difference between those approach and depths.
Yeah. Now, so that makes sense. What I'm wondering is if you sort of think about from a big picture perspective, I know that you spent some time in the back office before you came into this role, but you've been at Schneider for a long time. How would you describe the shift in terms of what selling service looks like? I know from other interviews and other conversations, it's a far bigger piece of the overall value proposition for customers than it was, say, 16, 17 years ago when you started with the business. And I know what we're talking about today is really looking at that, though, not as a focus or a priority on its own, but how it fits into the overall end-to-end journey and landscape of what the value is to the customer. I know you weren't in the role of selling service when you first started with a company, but if you think about what it looked like then to what it looks like today, what are the biggest changes in terms of its priority or importance to Schneider as a business?
Okay, I will start from back office and I will move to front office in order to explore this journey in front of what the customer expects from a Schneider services business. I do believe services business is people business. So we have to make a deep dive or make great focus on learning and the growth perspective related to services team. Then we need to go to explore the internal processes. This is the second perspective. Internal processes related to operation management, tendering, project management, site, team, operation. So we need to have the integration or good integration mix in front of our customer. Then we have to explore Mr. Customer. Now we have new customer. Now we have customer from Generation Z. So how we can provide another level of services in front of our new customer is a crucial success factor this era. Then the last perspective is financial perspective. While we are doing business, we need to guarantee our productivity and our profitability in order to have sustainable business with those customers. By considering the four perspectives and make deep dive customization on the services, the huge transformation done in the service business is we now relying on the software, the 24/7 connectivity, the third dimension of the data insight. Now, in any domain, in most of mature organization, we have services capabilities beside digital service capabilities. So we will start from people mindset, then what we can provide in addition to accelerate the services business capabilities, the 24/7, the digital transformation, the Internet of Things, AI capabilities. So this mix now is the great mix in order to accelerate the business growth in services, not only in Schneider, but in any mature organization. By software, we can accelerate the growth, maybe multiplied by 15 to 20 times compared to what we are doing in the past without the software and the technology capabilities to support this direction.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense. So if I'm understanding you correctly, I like your point about at the core, service is and will remain, in your opinion, and mine as well, a people business. Okay, so I like that. But if I'm understanding what you said in terms of this journey, service has expanded far beyond just being we provide this product. When it breaks, we will come and fix it, to, like you said, with digital transformation, it's a lot more of a insights business, a connectivity business, a source of that 24/7 exchange and relationship, and helping customers understand how the digital aspects of service can help them make better decisions and drive their business. So what I want to talk about then is, it's interesting because the role of service has expanded. The ability to provide value to the customer has grown and evolved. But as that's happened, the landscape has also become more complex, right? And so I know one of the things that's really important is, as the provider of products, services, solutions, it's your responsibility to figure out, how do you master all of that complexity to be able to keep things simple for your customers? So how do you sort of take this blend of what service has become, the actual technical aspects of service, but also the data, the consultative pieces, et cetera, and how do you kind of make that not overly cumbersome for customers to understand and to utilize and to see where they're getting the value from?
Yes, I will take from your words and the cascade about what we are doing in Schneider.
Okay.
In Schneider, our name was Field Services. And under the term of field services, we are providing consultative services, digital services, and digital services. Consultative, field, and digital. Now, our name is changed to only services. And under the term of services, we can do everything. And based on our service portfolio, we have 3 strategic offers called EcoCare, EcoConsult, and EcoFit. And under the 3 strategic offer, we can doing everything. And the point here, where is the digital services based on our new strategy or our new names? Digital services is embedded in all of these. Embedded in services and embedded in consultative services, embedded on field services, embedded on EcoFit. So EcoFit, EcoCare, and EcoConsult, all of them relying on the digital services as accelerator, enabler, in order to accelerate our services business across all the organization. So we have to go very simple, and we have to rely on digital services capabilities in all what we are doing in front of our customer, whatever we are interact with Mr. Customer offline and or online. So internally, we have to rely on digital services, and in front of customer, when we go online with the customer, we have to rely on digital service. So our digital service now is a crucial part, accelerator, incubator to accelerate our business, our service business across all business units in Schneider.
Yeah. I think that's such a good point, such an important point, really, because it's that embeddedness of it into every aspect of service that is really the goal, right? It isn't about sort of layering it on top or tacking it on in some way. It's about really integrating it into the business across all of those areas of service. So I think that's a really important point. I also like what you said about the evolution from field service to services and what that represents both for Schneider as a business in how you are thinking about and delivering service, but also what that means to the customer, right? Because it's, again, part of the ability to simplify the offering is paired with, from a company perspective, eliminating so many silos, right? You can't really look at the overall customer journey or expect them to have a seamless experience if you're still viewing these offerings as these disparate things, right? So I think that's another really important point. And there's a number of examples of other service leaders I've interviewed on the podcast recently that are in similar journeys within their businesses of looking at how to take that more holistic view and restructure things in a way that is more customer-centric. So you mentioned earlier personas, and I'm curious, what is the importance of customer segmentation and creating personas, and how does that help you with selling service well?
Yeah, I do believe we have to start with customer persona and we need to end with customer persona. And in between, we need to do our business based on deep understanding for this person. For an example, if I will provide services for data center manager and I will provide the same services for facility manager, of course, it will be a completely different related to data center persona challenges, pain points, drivers, decision-making process, digital services, cybersecurity challenges, and so on. And in front of Mr. Facility Manager, it will be a completely different related 24/7 response time, resolve time, stock spare part availability, and so on. So we have to customize and personalize what we are doing based on deep understanding for each customer persona. And the customer persona according to the level of managerial related to this persona. So if I will meet the CEO for the data center business, of course, I will change my sales speech. And if I will meet the data center manager for this organization, of course, I will customize and personalize my sales speech. So here we have to rely on customization and personalization, all what we are doing, starting from customer persona and end with same persona in order to know how we can go to Mr. Customer, how we can draw our project management plan, how we can providing method of statement in front of our customer, how we can make risk assessment based on deep dive for the business model for each person. So by the end of the day, services will go very fast by personalization and the customization based on this deep dive.
Okay. And so that leads me to the next point I want you to speak about, which is something that I love that came up in our conversation, which is the importance of storytelling in sales.
Yeah.
Okay. And so how would you describe the role of storytelling? And then what do you think are the aspects of doing it well?
Yeah, storytelling is a very successful approach in the sales, and not only for services sales, but in any other sales approach. But in services, this is a crucial success factor because it is a part from consultative selling approach. By the end of the day, I need to provide the customer with consultative selling approach. Of course, when I will tell the customer real showcase based on customization or personalization related to his business, we can use real example, real evidence, metaphor related to what we are doing in the past. We have our success story. We have our lesson learned based on creating the story under the part of the main umbrella of consultative selling approach. So consultative selling approach now is the trend in any kind of selling approaches, whatever we are selling product, solution, or services. But at the end of the day, the storytelling will be a crucial success factor across all the mapping. When we identify the customer, when we describe the scope obligation, when we providing our T&C while we are doing the contract in order to make the agreement. So we have to customize the storytelling across all the customer touching point, not only when we are providing or proposing our offer.
Yeah.
So storytelling will create a value proposition for any sales guy.
I think this is when I think about creating a more customer-centric sales approach. I think the first step, and you mentioned this at the beginning, is listening. Like, do you understand what's important, right? You can't just assume that you know what the customer needs across personas, et cetera. You have to validate your understanding with listening. But then the art of storytelling, to your point, is what helps you take the voice of the customer and with that knowledge, apply your capabilities in a way that resonates with what they're going to care about. And I think this is something that remains underutilized in the sense of sometimes I think even when people think they are storytelling, they're really just regurgitating capabilities, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's a significant difference, right? I mean, just a significant difference. And so there's a fine line, I guess, between well, maybe not a fine line, probably more like a huge gap between thinking you're storytelling and actually storytelling, right? But I think the more we can recognize the importance of that and figure out how do we help enable our people to understand what that looks like and do that well, it's certainly really impactful. So one of the other things that you've talked a lot about is this idea of customization and personalization. And I always think this is interesting because particularly when you think about a company like Schneider and the scale to which you're operating. I know that you specifically are talking about Northeast Africa, but also I know that to some degree, right, there's a company-wide cohesive strategy and approach. So when we start talking about things like customization and personalization, it raises the question to me of everything can't be customized and personalized, or you don't have a scalable business, right? So that being said, I think there's a real thing here to, and I don't mean misleading people, that's not what I mean, but there's a real thing to the importance of a sense of customization and personalization to customers, choice and all of that, but internally thinking about kind of creating some standard options for customization and personalization, if you follow what I'm saying. So how do you kind of strike that balance between providing that need or addressing that want customers have to have choice and customization and personalization without truly going outside of the scope of what is scalable business practice for Schneider?
Yeah, I need to answer this question above and beyond the Schneider-Centric. As in the market, most probably you have a gap between what we say and what we do. And according to this gap, we need to define the challenges in order to walk our talks. So I mentioned a lot customization and personalization. And of course, Mr. Customer needs personalization and customization according to his needs. So the internal customization compared to external customization is a real challenge. We have to be agile, simple, and have the readiness in order to apply what we are saying in front of our customer. So of course, here we don't have 100% capabilities in order to customize everything or make standardization for everything. So we need to go in this direction, but in a smart format. So now we have what we can call MVP, minimum viable product. And minimum viable product is the standard reference or SKUs for providing product, solution, or services. So by this standardization, we need to close or at least decrease this gap between what we do and what we say. So Mr. Customer, by the end of the day, he can choose what he needs. He can choose the part numbers, SKUs from the website, what he needs, not only product or solution, but also related to any intangible product. So he can buy services based on MVP concept. So based on just enough planning and definition of ready, we need to have the readiness in order to customize and personalize our product or services. And this is the trend for most probably in most of mature organization already working on this concept.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I think it definitely is a trend, but I think it's something where, to your point, particularly when we're talking about the sales, you have to be careful, right? Because you don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. You know, it's not about saying that you can craft a completely personalized solution to someone's needs. It's about helping them understand how the core of what you do meets the core of their business requirements and then offering them choice on some of the things that layer on top of that minimum viable product. So I like the way you describe that because it's sort of, there is a core that is standard, right? But that there are choices above and beyond that that they can select to personalize or customize their experience still within what Schneider has defined as part of its offerings, right? And so I think this balance is important for companies to understand as the trend, right? To your point, it's not a Schneider thing. This is everywhere.
It's a global thing.
Exactly. But the balance of that is important to understand. But a lot of this, I think, when you go back to the skills you've talked about today, it's a lot of this, I think, comes down to the communication, the storytelling, the execution of it in the sales process, because I'm not saying it isn't about truly offering choice, but I do think a lot of it is how you make customers feel and also how you relay the options they have in a way that makes it feel personalized to their situation, which comes back to customer listening, personas, storytelling, et cetera, right? This is almost part of the offering today is this sense of personalization and customization. So you have to understand how to articulate that as part of your value proposition. So yeah, were you going to say something else?
Yeah, from customer standpoint, we have to define what the customer do, what the customer get, and what the customer feel. And based on the integration between those factors, we will customize and personalize what we are doing. So very simple, by the end of the day, based on deep dive, the customer persona, we will provide the MVP, our MVP for services in order to satisfy as much as we can customer needs.
Yeah. Okay. So when you think about some of the other trends that are going on, so that trend being one, this sort of global trend toward customization, personalization, but also we talked about the importance of agility, right? Being able to be agile. There's global challenges with talent, getting enough talent, getting the right talent, et cetera. How do some of those trends impact what a company needs to do to have the right sales approach?
We are providing sales specifically or in particular in services, relying on how we can provide peace of mind to Mr. Customer, how we can identify the risk in front of Mr. Customer. So based on peace of mind approach and risk assessment approach, we need to analyze the decision-making process by make the balance between the three crucial factors: performance, cost, and risk. And according to the balance between those factors, we need to choose our talents. We need to choose our talents with mainly growth mindset ability in front of internal challenges and external challenges. So the balance between how we can go agile, how we can be very simple, how we accelerate our action. By the end of the day, we need to know what we are doing. We have to provide real evidence in front of Mr. Customer between the three crucial factors: performance, risk, and cost. I can't sell everything with any price for everywhere,
right?
For any customers. So by the end of the day, again, services business is people business. So talented people here is a crucial success factor in order to have sustained services business in any organization. So how we can choose our talent? From my perspective, I love the model called KSA, knowledge, skills, and abilities. And if I will give weightage for each factor inside this model, I will rely maybe more than 7 to 8 scale out of 10 on abilities factor. So how to apply in the real life is the crucial factor. This is my DNA.
Yeah, that makes sense. So some of the changes that we've talked through in what it takes to be effective selling service today, sometimes as things evolve, there can be internal policies, processes, procedures that are still rooted in what worked yesteryear, right? So what do you see that is sort of has the potential to inhibit what we need to do to be successful selling service today, that we need to think about matching up?
Yeah, I am always asking my team and the customer, what does it mean analytics? And I am always asking them to make the differentiation between term analysis and analytics in order to know why we need to go based on digital services capabilities, relying on analytics above and beyond the analysis. So by 24/7 data connectivity and hosting customer data, whatever on-prem or on cloud, we need to know how we are doing with this data. And by answering this challenge in deep in front of our customer, we can sell everything. But by the end of the day, we have to answer why, from Mr. Customer perspective, Mr. Customer standpoint, why I need to give you, Mr. Service Provider, my data. I can do a lot of analysis. I have my own software. I have my own technical team. So by the end of the day, I have to answer in real this point. So by propositioning the value proposition of data analytics. So we have to go very fast based on proactive approach, based on peace of mind approach, based on risk mitigation in order to be capable by the end of the day to continue business with this customer. All the organization right now already have a lot of softwares. Okay, what does it mean, this software in real? You need this software, or before think you need this software, you have already process deficiencies. You need to enhance your process before going to the software. So also, what does it mean, digital transformation?
Yeah.
It is a buzzword.
Yeah.
It is a buzzword. What does it mean right now? Maybe in some organization, digital transformation is an obsolete term right now. In other organization, it's very trendy, and we need to go towards digital transformation. By the end of the day, digital transformation is a decision-making approach. We need to enhance the decision-making approach. We need to rely on third dimension of the data based on analytics, apps, AI, IoT, and a lot of these trendy tools and techniques. Under answering these points, we will continue making services business. So software now part from the equation, but we need to choose what we are doing before go and put this software on the process. We need to have clear process first. So if I will invest, please invest in how to declare your process deficiencies first. Then I will provide you the proper software to accelerate the performance, increase the efficiency, increase the productivity, and optimize the cost by the end of the day. Digital transformation, it is not about technology. It is about people mindset. It is about technology, and it is about business environment. So the integration between the three factors, this is what does it mean, digital transformation.
Right.
So we have to go there. We have to rely on digital services. We have to rely on digital transformation, apps, tools, techniques, analytics, and so on. But before decide, I need to go in this direction, I have to calculate my right balance between performance, cost, and risk.
Yeah. And so if I'm understanding correctly, that's a challenge internally, getting that right. But it's also the challenge of communicating with customers about where the limits of service are if they are not allowing you to access their data, right? I mean, that's kind of a piece of the sales conversation is if by giving us access, we can do these things, right? But only that way. So it's having that conversation as well.
Yeah, this is a repetitive conversation in each customer meeting. So we have to answer this point very clearly, transparently, in order to work on consultative selling approach. I will be, Mr. Customer, your advisor. So based on this approach, I will tell you why I need to access this data and what is the proposition of my accessing, where I will access this data, who will access this data, how I will send you the report, notification, or whatever, any kind of communication in order to continue discussing or continue working together. So without answering this question, we will not be able to go forward.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so how do you think selling services will change in the next 5 years?
I do believe in human. Still, I do believe in the human ability. So based on 24/7 and services, connectivity, and cloud capabilities, still, I do believe the future of field services is still very human. We have to be ready. We have to have the deterministic ability to use the data, to rely on digital transformation, to rely on AI capabilities, just to facilitate our productivity and profitability based on clear direction. So I do believe we rely more and more on data, on connectivity, on software, beside the human capabilities. So the future of field service is still, from my perspective, very human, and the human must have the readiness in order to how he can use the new technology and the data. And also, I do believe if we will not change, the system will change us.
So you want to disrupt rather than being disrupted, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Hany, last question for today. So you've been in services, like you said, for the majority of your career in one form or another. Looking back, what would you say is one of the biggest lessons you've learned?
Very simple. Don't assume fact. Okay. A lot of stories with my team, my colleagues, my managers. Please don't assume facts while we are going to meet your customer. Don't create your project plan based on assuming this fact. By the end of the day, still we have missing probability. We have to apply our risk assessment, risk mitigation plan. We have to consider maybe missing probability, missing opinion, missing data before creating your proposal. So my DNA is don't assume fact. Please listen very clearly, identify the situation, make your analysis, then create your proposal. So don't assume fact is my biggest lesson learned, not only in Schneider, but in my whole life.
Yeah. No, I think it's a great point, and it kind of brings us back to our mission for this conversation today, which is, I think, customer centricity can only stem from not making those assumptions. You have to ask the questions. You have to listen to the answers. You have to vet your understanding through the lens of the voice of the customer. And that is what gives you the direction you need. So I think it's a great conclusion. And I appreciate you coming and spending some time with me today.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
You can find more by visiting us at futureoffieldservice.com. While you're there, be sure to sign up for the Future of Field Service Insider so that you can stay up to date on the latest podcasts and articles by having them delivered to your inbox. The Future of Field Service podcast is published in partnership with IFS, so you can learn more at ifs.com. As always, thank you for listening.